Meanwhile, we're riding the lift up to Savinkok. This is a well-known ski resort area in Montenegro. But in the summer, people go up there to enjoy the views, probably for that reason. And there are also hiking trails to walk along. The place is quite interesting, although if we're talking specifically about summer vacations or as a winter resort, I probably wouldn't choose Jablayak. In my opinion, Kalashin is much better. Even just the first impression, for example, this lift here is a 2-seater, while in Kalashin, if I'm not mistaken, it's a 5-seater. That's it. So you can really see that there's noticeably less space here than on the lifts I'm used to. At first, they're too fast. So you actually have to manage to jump onto it, but then it moves slowly instead. At the top, to keep skiing, you have to get off this lift and transfer to a new one. So basically, you have to take 2 lifts to get down the mountain. I have no idea who came up with this kind of craziness. I'll show you more once we get to the end. Well, it's obvious who did. Basically, it was built back in the Yugoslav era. Socialists often came up with all sorts of oddities in different fields. Well, recreation wasn't spared either. But as for summer vacations, I think Shablak is probably one of the most interesting places in Montenegro, and I encourage everyone to come here, if only just to see it. However, keep the following in mind. Today I'll show you some specific sites of Durmitor. Durmitor is the region where we are now. It's a national park well known throughout the country. I'll show you certain landmarks. Of course, I won't be able to show you everything, just the most famous ones, but I ask you to keep in mind that planning to visit all these sites in one day is very difficult. In theory, it's possible, but it's tough. So everything I'm going to show you today is probably better split over a 2-day trip. If you're coming for 2 days, then yes, no problem. If you only have 1 day, well, just pick whatever you like most from the video. Otherwise, it will be physically quite difficult. So while we're still on the road, a couple more words. So remember, Žabljak is only for summer, Kolašin is only for winter. In Kolašin, it's actually the opposite. There's not much to do in the summer, but in winter, it's just fantastic. This year, I think as soon as the snow falls, I'll be going there every winter, or rather every week. So we've just gotten off the first lift, and as promised, I'm showing you around. And over there is the second lift, so you need to go to it and keep riding further. In short, you can still feel the socialist quirks even nowadays. I think now you better understand why I choose Kolašin for my ski trips instead of Žabljak. There's nothing like that there. All the infrastructure there is new, everything is well thought out, everything is modern, and I really like it. Here is the second lift. You know, in the summer you can still walk through here, but in winter, having to jump off one lift in all your ski gear, get to the second one, and then go somewhere else again, well, in short, it's really inconvenient. Well, here we are, you could say, on top of the world. Who knows what the elevation is here, but it's pretty high. Let's go, let's walk a bit. Durmitor is like that. You have to walk here, there's not much else to do. There are all sorts of activities here. Hiking trails, bike routes, rafting, mountaineering, things like that. In other words, people don't come here just to lie in bed. Well, maybe some people do, but that's just silly. The higher you climb, the slightly better the surroundings get. I don't know how well you can see, but over there in the distance there are even a few lakes. In general, Durmitor has a huge number of lakes. I don't remember exactly how many there are, but it's some colossal number. And here's a spot where people usually take photos, kind of like a frame probably. The idea is that it will look like a frame in the picture, I guess. But many people go much farther. See, there are people climbing over there, and there. What else is interesting about Žabljak? It's noticeably cooler here, so while at the height of the day on the coast it's, to put it mildly, unpleasant to be outside unless you're heading to the beach here. The temperature is quite comfortable. I don't know by how much, probably about 10 degrees cooler. And what's great is that there's absolutely no heat at all. Well, that's that. That's it for the theory. Let's take a moment to enjoy the views. I think there's plenty to see here. Actually, as we're going down, I think the views are even better than when we were going up. So, what else can I show you? I can also show you that adventure park for kids again when we get closer to it. I started with it at the beginning of the video. We passed by it so quickly that you probably didn't have time to see anything. Now we're gonna head down, I'll show it again. And here we see some kind of lake. Judging by its appearance, it's probably artificial. I don't know what it's for. Maybe you can swim in it. There you go. There's another one over there. There are an astronomical number of them here. There are small ones, big ones, high up in the mountains, and low down in the mountains. Basically, there are people who specifically hike out to certain lakes. There are some really interesting lakes out there, but you have to walk a long way to reach them, like 3 hours or even 5 hours. But people go anyway. So a lot of fans of long hiking routes come here. I'm not like that. I'm more the type to drive around, see. I visit one interesting place, then drive 20 minutes and check out another interesting spot. But there are people who set out with a purpose and spend half the day climbing somewhere. We're just now approaching this tourist park. I'm filming it right now from a relatively high altitude. I hope you can see it. And while we're still on our way there, let's take a closer look at the lake we saw from above. The lake is quite nice. A small lake like that, I like it. And I'll take another look at this playground over here. Durmitor National Park is a vast nature reserve of incredible beauty, a unique landscape monument whose significance extends far beyond the borders of Montenegro. The untouched nature of mighty mountains, coniferous forests, mountain lakes, and the Tara River Canyon leaves an unforgettable memory for everyone who has visited these protected lands. The park was designated as a separate territory in 1952, and since 1980, Durmitor has become part of the World Heritage, being included on the UNESCO list. The reserve is located in the southern part of Montenegro and covers an area of about 34,000 hectares. The park is situated in a mountainous region. The highest peak is Mount Bobotov Kuk. Its elevation is 2,523 meters. There are springs and glacial lakes within the park. The lakes are perfectly round in shape and filled with the purest water. The reserve has preserved diverse pine, spruce, and broad-leaved forests, alpine and subalpine meadows, as well as a multitude of relic plants, many of which are endemic to this area. Nature enthusiasts who come here can see the extraordinary animal and plant life of the reserve. The red fox, brown bear, wolf, mountain goat, marten, chamois, hares, and the European otter. In total, there are more than 300 species of animals, many of which are on the verge of extinction worldwide and are protected by the Red Book. There are more than 170 species of birds, 150 different species of butterflies, and over 1,500 types of plants, and that's according to the most approximate estimates. The banks of the Tara River Canyon are famous for their unique, pristine black pine forests. There are only a handful of such forests left in the entire world. The local black pines are magnificent trees, 45 meters tall and around 400 years old. The Đurđevića Bridge connects Montenegro and Serbia. It is a very important landmark of the country, and there is a very interesting story associated with it, which dates back to World War II. When the Nazi German troops were advancing, a decision was made to blow up this bridge. But as you can see, it is so beautiful, and building it is difficult and expensive. Therefore, one engineer suggested not blowing up the entire bridge, but only one span, so that after the war ended, the bridge could be easily restored. That's exactly what they did. They blew up only one span. The bridge was not seriously damaged, but the invaders were stopped for a while. Although, as we know from history, this did not really stop them. Nevertheless, Yugoslavia fell. After the occupation, the Italians found this engineer, learned about this story, brought him to the bridge, and executed him there. That's the sad story. But now, this place is visited by many tourists who come here to stroll and sightsee. There are many, several restaurants here. By the way, there are also auto camps here, so if you want, you can stay with a tent. And there are also zip lines where you can ride over the gorge. By the way, should I give it a try? Right along the bridge, you can fly over this gorge according to the brochures. It's 150 meters. But also, here on the bridge, you can buy all sorts of things, both useful and completely useless souvenirs, honey, rakia, and juices, and so on. There's a whole row of such goods here. Whoa. Third one. Third one. Whoa. Whoa. This pleasure costs 20 euros. You can't really say that's cheap. Wow. Subtitles by Dimitro Jok. And then they also take us back to the boarding point. So you don't have to walk across this bridge, although honestly it's not that far. The zip line costs 20 euros. To be honest, I thought it would be scary, but it turned out it wasn't. In general, you don't really feel the speed there. In short, you could say it's not the cheapest pleasure. This ride is 2 minutes for 20 euros, but in general, it's interesting at least once in your life. You should try it. So, France. Well, probably the most famous highlight of Durmitor is the National Park Black Lake. All tourist buses definitely stop at this place, and here tourists get out and walk around. So what can you do here? First of all, on the right side you can see an opportunity to do a bit of shopping. There are always various berries, honey, all kinds of juices, rakiđa and alcoholic drinks, wine and so on. There will be some kind of jam as well, of course. And now we'll head over to Black Lake itself and see what you can do there. Well, here's the best proof that we're in Durmitor. By the way, as you can see, forest, it's everywhere around here. No matter where you go, there are mountains and forests everywhere. Well, as you get closer to Black Lake, you start to see some entertainment options. This here is the local children's playground. While we continue on our way, I'll share a couple of thoughts that came to my mind personally. I think Žabljak, it may not be the most ideal place to live in Montenegro, but it is definitely the most ideal place for renting out property. Why? Because the high season happens twice a year. Just look at how many people are here now in the summer. Although it's mainly positioned as a ski resort, meaning tourists come in the summer and autumn as well, well, it almost always interrupts for a very short time pileup. All hotels and all apartments operate year-round. And at the same time, real estate costs about the same as on the coast, maybe just a little bit less expensive. So it's about the same price, but the revenue is higher. And by the way, I'm saying this completely selflessly. Since I sell real estate on the coast, I plan to start selling in Podgorica as well in the coming month. But as for entering the Žabljak market, I don't have any plans for that yet. In the old days, there was also an adventure park here, but now only remnants of it remain. It's no longer operating, probably because for some reason there wasn't much demand for it. Honestly, I think it was really not very good due to poor organization. Currently, the only parks of this kind still operating are in Herceg-Novi, on Lovćen, and at Savin Kuk, which we saw today. And here is the lake itself. So what can you do here? First of all, you can go for a swim, although honestly I'm not sure it's worth doing that in the reservoir. The water is kind of cold. There's just one person swimming a little, well, just one, that's it, no one else. Of course, you can also take a walk. Here there's a huge forest area, and you can walk all the way around the lake, which will take quite a bit of time. And also, if you look over there, you can see kayaks and boats that you can rent. I don't remember how much they cost. I think it's 7 or 10 euros per hour. And by the way, there's a story related to this that I once witnessed. The company arrived, European tourists arrived. I don't know exactly where they were from, maybe France or England, but in short, they were some kind of Western European tourists. And as is typical in any normal European group, there were people of European appearance and a few black guys, that is guys of African European descent, let's put it that way. So what did I end up observing? I watched the Europeans settled into the boats, sat down. They couldn't all fit in one, so the whole group took 2 or 3 boats, lounging comfortably while the African Europeans were put on the oars. And basically, they were the ones rowing the whole time. Well, as they say, time passes, centuries change, but in my opinion, nothing really changes fundamentally in this world. And there's one more small thing I want to mention. There are very few good restaurants in Jablak, or rather, to be more precise, there aren't any at all. There are some ordinary ones that are, well, not bad, but they don't offer anything amazing. By the way, there's one of them right on the Black Lake. If you want, you can easily go there. The cafe is decent, but there are no amazing restaurants here. On the coast, there are places that I can say are head and shoulders above the rest. There are such restaurants in Kolashin. In Jablak, at best, they're all just ordinary. Yes, they're decent. Yes, you can definitely have lunch there. Yes, it's not bad, but it's not amazing. So, if you suddenly decide to open a great restaurant here, I think you'll be destined for success if, of course, you can actually make it great. And so, at the end of the day, we arrived at our favorite auto camp. There's a thunderstorm and it looks like it's going to rain soon. By the way, it's worth mentioning that Jablak is the rainiest place in Montenegro. It rains here much more often than on the coast. So before you set off on a big trip, be sure to check the weather forecast. So what options are there here? You can book a cabin. You can stay in these kinds of caravans, which are very popular with various Europeans who often stop at this auto camp. And you can also pitch tents. Usually we spend the night in a tent, but this time actually, for the first time since I started coming here, we booked a cabin. I guess we were just lazy, too lazy to set up the tent. What have we come to? There's nothing special in those cabins. 2 beds, a tiny table. Well, there's electricity and lighting. You can plug in your gadgets. By the way, this is the only proper auto camp in Montenegro. I've been to many of them here. And by the way, not just in Montenegro, but also in neighboring countries. This is the only place that can truly be called an auto camp. All the amenities are here. First of all, there are these gazebos. There are several of them where you can sit, have something to eat, or just relax. There's a place for barbecuing and there's lighting. Right ahead of me, there's a street lamp. I'm showing you straight ahead that building. On the left side is the kitchen, and on the right is the restroom. There's a toilet, a shower cabin, and sinks. Even further to the left, there's another yellow building, and there's a shower there too. So you can take a shower either in this building or in that one. All the necessary amenities are available here. What sets this auto camp apart from other auto camps? Well, the restroom and kitchen are usually available everywhere. Well, probably almost everywhere at least. But gazebos like these are far, far from common. In many places you arrive and the auto camp is right on the beach. And, there's not even anywhere to sit. So you spend the whole day on the beach, arrive at the beach, and it's just beach, 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 beach. The only place you can sit is in the kitchen. In short, there's nowhere to settle down. And that's very inconvenient. So, you walk around, go for a swim, whatever you do, it doesn't matter. You arrive and there's literally nowhere to sit. But here, that problem doesn't exist. Here, there are plenty of places to sit. That's why in recent years, whenever we go to auto camps, we almost always come to this one. Plus, the temperature here is just perfect. It's not hot. A lot of auto camps are either on the beach or in the central part of Montenegro or the central part of Bosnia. It's very hot there, especially in Bosnia, in the central part near Mostar during the summer. It's just scorching. The last time we were there, about 3 years ago, we didn't sleep a wink all night because it was unbearably hot. But here it's fine. It's cool. Actually, the year before last, I don't remember if I mentioned this, but we actually froze at night. It was 8 degrees Celsius, and this was 2 or 3 years ago, the first time we came here. We didn't know yet that it could get that cold. So ideally, you should bring a jacket just in case. We arrived lightly dressed, just in t-shirts. In the morning, we ran to the car to turn on the heater and warm up at 6 in the morning. Hello, friends. We've come with you to a place called Churivac. Churivac is located within the territory of Durmitor National Park. This is also a national park, so it turns out it's like a national park within a national park. There are quite a lot of such wonders here, because Durmitor is a vast area. And within the territory of this huge national park, there are several other national parks. The most famous of them is probably Black Lake, which we'll be visiting soon. And in fact, there's also this place, Churivac. Unfortunately, I don't know its full name. I'm not sure if it's a canyon or a gorge. That's why I just call it Churivac. You can find it on the map. If you plan to come here, you definitely need to find it, mark it, or just message me on WhatsApp. I'll send you a link on how to find this place. It's quite difficult to find without navigation. And it's a large forested area, or rather mountainous forested area. There's a hiking trail here, and you can walk along this mountain, heading somewhere toward that mountain over there, where there's a big pasture and sheep grazing. I think it probably takes about an hour to walk there, just judging by sight. But for those who enjoy long walks, many people actually go there. And now, to wrap things up, I'll rotate the camera a bit and try to show some views of the gorge. That gorge over there. Let's zoom in a little. I have some kind of super zoom here with colossal magnification. Probably there's no point in using it all the way because it would be almost right up close. By the way, it's quite warm here for summer. We've been to Dermitor more than once, far from the first time. And in some years, you know, in summer at night, it could be around 8 degrees Celsius. And we even had to wear jackets. Tonight, according to the forecast, it will be 18 degrees, even at night. So it's a very warm summer on the coast. It's just scorching. And even here, it's 30 degrees, which is insanely high for Dermitor. Usually, it's no more than 25 during daylight hours. By the way, this is a very famous place in Montenegro. As a rule, excursions usually pass through here. See that mountain over there? It's curved kind of like a saddle, so I guess that's probably why this place is called the Sedlo Pass. And here's a quick look at the surroundings. Alright, let's move on. And now, actually, the last thing I want to show you today is Lake Piva. It's very beautiful, by the way, and completely man-made. A typical tour goes like this. When someone travels from the north of Montenegro back to the coast, they pass by Lake Piva, and then the buses head to the Piva Monastery. It's quite a decent monastery. It's not particularly beautiful, but there's an unusual story connected to it, which is why it's quite popular. But today, we won't be passing by that monastery. We're heading straight home. So friends, I wish you all the best. Goodbye to everyone. And I recommend that you visit the north of Montenegro at least once. It's really wonderful here.